looking at their backgrounds and the experiences that they have. I'd like to have them here to explain how they arrived at these recommendations.
Okay. Well, let me try to answer part of that. I don't know if the word agreement, but Mr. Younger made an agreement to do this is actually the right wordage. I don't believe Mr. Younger did make an agreement. I can't speak for Mr. O'Leary, so I don't know if an agreement was made.
I'm just in front of me.
Yeah, no, well, I'm going to try to answer some of it. The reasons I gave you was what he told me. That's what he told me, was that it would be somebody who, if they had a resignation, it would be somebody who could possibly step right up on an appointment basis after being appointed, but not necessarily would be appointed to fill that vacancy. And again, he said the workload is such that they could use the help. Unfortunately, he's not here, so that's all I can give you for their reason, for his reason for requesting it. Mr. Young.
I can respond to Selectman Rose. There was no agreement. Chairman O'Leary and I had attended a historic district meeting after completion. I think it was must have been a Selectmen's meeting, as we just walked down the hallway and walked in. There was no agreement. What Chairman O'Leary stated was that we would put it on the agenda for the board to act upon. There was no agreement made of anybody would support or not support any individuals, or whether it would be support or not support for associate membership. So there was no vote for agreement. It was that Mr. O'Leary said that we would put it on the agenda.
Mr. Chairman, I spoke with Mr. Solomon late this afternoon. Unfortunately, I did not ask him the question of alternate versus associate, but I asked him the purpose of additional appointments to the committee, and that was related to the workload. And there's a lot going on in the historic district, as we all know, at this point in time, and so it is related to the workload. But I'm kind of at a loss right now because of this alternate versus associate. And you know, if you read the town code, it specifically spells out the membership of the committee, and there are 3 members who are quote unquote at-large members. And so any vacancy, any associate or alternate that was appointed that didn't meet one of the other 4 criteria would only be able to fill one of those seats, should that arise. And there's still no guarantee that but there's nothing in here that refers to associate members as well. It specifically states a maximum of 3 alternate members shall be appointed to serve on the commission. So after reading that in the town code, taking in its literal form, I was ready to make appointments for alternates tonight. Okay. Prior to reading this, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. But now I have to say, Mr. Chairman, I'm not comfortable appointing associates. Okay. And without benefit of having another discussion with Mr. Solomon to understand associate versus alternate, I would recommend that we defer this discussion, and perhaps we can get Mr. Solomon here for the next meeting. I'm not trying to throw everything out. I want to make sure everybody knows what we're doing and why we're doing it, and that we're all in agreement on it. So it's yeah, I'm a little, and his letter specifically states alternates, but if you say he wants associates, he's requested associate members, not alternate members. Unfortunately, that is probably the one question I didn't ask him today, because I didn't have my package nor the town code in my office. So,
okay. I have no problem with that. Mr. Muldoon, would you like to postpone it until we get this cleared up?
That's fine. I do have the same question in my mind. Reading the code, it only mentions alternate members anyways. I don't know where the authority is for associates.
what's another?
Why don't we do that?
But could we request the town administrator look at, do we have the authority to appoint associates, or? I don't expect an answer. Can we look, can we get that for the next
There
meeting?
have been cases where you have put associate members on other committees.
Okay.
There's been joint, associate members on building committees.
But,
Okay, why don't we do this? Why don't we,
but if I may, Mr. Chairman, a building committee or a task force or those are kind of ad hoc, specific purpose. They're not addressed, they're not standing committees of the community, they're not addressed in the town code or the policy book, et cetera, et cetera. So, again, I'd like to investigate a little further the question of, can we take a standing committee that's by virtue of the code, by virtue of the charter, by virtue of state law, that can we appoint associate members to those committees, or do we need specific authority within whatever rules and regulations are set forth to create that committee?
okay, we'll get that answer.
Okay,
And we'll
thank you.
defer this to another meeting.
Thank
Dan, is anything?
Yes, I'd also like, though, I think, one of the things I'd like to know is why they recommended certain people, not the individual, but, what was the basis? I know.
Well, we'll invite them here, and then if they chose to answer that,
Yeah.
Well,
if he wrote the recommendations, he wrote the letter here, I'd like to have, maybe if he could write out the criteria, this is how we made the decisions, because we need this thing or that thing, or whatever the case may be.
I don't have a problem with that, but I don't recall us ever doing that to another committee or membership on their recommendations.
Well, I have, on other committees and other recommendations, I have requested the reason behind.
And you may ask them that.
Yeah,
That's fine, I have no problem with you asking them that.
Yeah, that'd be fine, then.
Yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I can continue this until January 22nd, the next available meeting. I can also notify, if so wish, the Historic District Commission regarding Selectmen Road's concerns and have them forward responses.
Yes.
I have an additional question on the whole process. I'm a member of the school building committee, and we likewise are looking to add associate members because of the amount of work that we have to do in a short amount of time. And in that particular case, we do not take an internal vote to bring in associate members. It's done by the bodies that form the committee to begin with, or at least half of them, the school committee in this case, since the ESBC is formed by the joint appointment of the Board of Selectmen and the school committee. I'd like to get clarification on the process in this case whereby, whether it's binding or not, an internal vote is taken by the committee to add members to its own committee. I'm not aware that that exists elsewhere.
I don't know if they took a vote to add members. I know they requested it to the Board of Selectmen. They requested it to Mr. O'Leary and Mr. Younger, I believe.
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, Mr. Murphy.
We have a question out there about whether or not we have the power to appoint associate members versus the alternate members, which are specifically stated in the town code. But if they voted or didn't vote, however they came to their recommendation, that's their recommendation or their opinion. The appointing authority is the Board of Selectmen. That is clear. So they certainly, and we certainly look for guidance and direction from committees, commissions, and boards, et cetera. But they do not, no committee, to my knowledge, has the authority, no committee in town has the authority and power to appoint their own associate members. Only the appointing authority can do that. So in the case of the ESBC, it's the school committee and the Board of Selectmen, which are a joint appointing authority to get associate members on that committee. So in this particular case, if there are going to be associate members, it's this board that would take that vote.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I think I saw a hand up the back. Can I see a hand?
Yeah.
Would you identify yourself, please, ma'am?
Kristen Ellis. I'm part of the ESBC as well, an associate member. But aside from that, I watched the HDC meeting on the interviews for this open position. And And as a citizen, I'd like to say that I'd like also to find out how they're making their recommendations and what qualifications, because there was one person that stood head and shoulders above all the rest in the qualifications, the affiliations, the professional experience. I didn't see one interview, there was 3 out of 4 there, and Ellen Glue's name was not mentioned in the recommendations, and I just want to say that as a citizen who volunteers on committees in this town, I'd like to know how they are recommending, or how are they qualifying the recommendation, and I guess Howard would.
And that they would have to answer.
Right, and they'll answer that at the next meeting.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think, what John, just so I understand.
You're not going to agree with me.
No, it's,
Oh,
what
okay.
I'm questioning is there a question before us also as to whether or not there even can be alternate or associate members on this committee?
If I may, Mr. Chairman.
There can be
Alternates.
alternates. The question is, can there be associates?
And the reason
That's
I
the
ask is
question.
because I know certain committees are limited to numbers.
There may be,
That's the question.
yeah, but specifically in the town code, a maximum of 3 alternates.
Alternates.
Okay.
There is a question, can there be associates?
And it is a maximum.
Right.
That's right.
That's right. Mr. Young is going to find that out.
Okay, and, all right, well, I guess that'll go further, because then we just have to make a determination if they don't have 3 now, they're only asking for 2, but they can have 3.
They're going to have up to
That's
3.
correct.
Okay, and they're only asking for 2.
Right.
That's correct.
Right.
Okay, so that would be another question that maybe could be put before them beforehand, if they're that desperate for help, why don't they want 3 associates or alternate, whatever?
It's a question that can be asked. You know, sir? You have all that time? Okay. Good, thank you. Okay, we're getting to our schedule and we're at it. 7:45, there's a Housing Authority joint appointment. Let me get my paperwork here.
I'm sorry, you should go to number 5 and continue it, because that was scheduled at 7:40.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes, I will. 7:40 on our agenda was a public hearing from RMLD Verizon. We've had a request to continue that. The gentleman could not make it tonight. Could I have a motion to continue that?
Mr. Chairman, I move to continue RMLD Verizon New England to locate a pole on Redmond Avenue as shown in Plan Number 1862 to January 22nd, 2002.
Motion made, do we have a second?
Second.
Motion made and second, thank you very much. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, 0, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, you should ask if there's anyone here for the hearing.
I'm sorry, yes, was there anyone here for that hearing? The RMLD Verizon poll plan? No. Okay. Thank you. Okay, I'm going to read a public notice. Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 41, Section 11, the Board of Selectmen and the North Reading Housing Authority will meet in joint session on January 7, 2002 at 7:45 p.m. in Room 14, North Reading Town Hall, 235 North Street, for the purpose of filling a vacancy on the North Reading Housing Authority. Good evening. Would somebody like to speak for the Housing Authority?
Peter
Mr.
Carrier.
Carrier.
Peter Carrier, Chairman of the North Reading Housing Authority. We presented to you William Palladino for your approval to the North Reading Housing Authority Board.
Thank you. I have, I'm sure the rest of the board has, I've read Mr. Palladino's paperwork and everything looks fine. Is there any further questions or comments, Mr. Rowe?
Was there any other applicant? Not that I think anybody could beat the qualifications here, but just,
No.
there wasn't, okay. I don't think so.